others towards the things that I believe are important and deserve our focus. Again, thank you. And don't forget to like and share if you find something of value, or even if you want to just poke fun at, a guy just trying to figure it out. Please don't forget to hit that like button. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And go ahead and like and share. And I want to let you know how much I appreciate you. All right. So I can't really say it enough, but I am so happy to be here right now putting this thing together called the Black Report. I know that if you're listening to this, then you're probably one of my good friends or good family that have, followed me throughout my life and throughout my journey. And you know how many times I have, started and stopped and started and stopped. But you know what? Hey, here's another attempt for you. And, you know, I really feel good about this time. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to go ahead and do this. Everything's not perfect. You might be upset at some of the quality, or, of course, when I go on and ramble a little bit, because I do have the tendency of doing that. But at the same time, I knew that I had to do it. It was on my heart. It's always on my mind. And that thing that I always feel a compulsion to do is to share my thoughts, and my vision for the most part. You see, you know, outside of my immediate family, um, some people think that I have a great presence about myself at times. And then, there are times where I tend to lose it a little bit. And I've definitely lost it before. But I remember one of my uncles saying to me not too long ago how proud he was. My uncle Plush, man, my Uncle William. Because, like he always says, nephew, I'm so proud of you, man. Every time I look up, man, you're trying to do something positive. You're trying to do something that's beneficial for the community, and, on a whole, and how proud he was of me. And so, I know you're probably listening as well. So thank you, because you are a major inspiration, for me to continue to do this stuff. Um, and, a lot of times I typically shy away from, creating these social platforms or trying to engage in social media and stuff like that, because this, to be 100% honest with you, and, like I said, for the ones who have been along the ride, my family, close friends, and things like that, you already know, man, sometimes this stuff drives me nuts. It drives me bonkers. And it's not necessarily just the interaction on the platform, um, but from where I come from, and from the things that I've been allowed to experience and to do in my life, I have a privilege now. Yes, I said it, man. I got a privilege. I have been privileged to be able to hold certain things in my mind, and to also compare things that I'm seeing with those things that I hold in my mind, and also to measure both those things up against different, what would I say? How would I say this? Because I'm not a PhD type, but I want to talk to you in a way that where you're gonna get it. So, when you have these different, I guess, models for life, or I guess, frames for life, or structures for life, right? You know, I recognized at one point that I had pretty much, almost thrown away a lot of the old behaviors, that I grew up recognizing and following and establishing for myself. That basically, that the life that I lived, you know, is almost 100% different. There, of course, there are certain things, there are certain friends, yeah, of course, those those habits that you probably grew up with that you probably haven't necessarily gotten rid of, but at the same time, when I really just start to look at my life as a whole and my life in general, there are very few things that, I would do on a daily basis before, that I do now. And having that privilege because I'm older, to say that has been an incredible thing for me. And so when I want to um, create things like I said, like this platform, this Black Report. And I hope you like the title. Please give me some feedback. Let me know if you like the title or not. Leave it in the comments of this section, or leave it in the comment section, because I'll be checking it out. I'll be looking at it. But yeah, let me know if you like the title, the Black Report. Of course, it's my last name and everything, but I think it kind of serves a couple different purposes. But just let me know if you like the title. But anyway, so you know having the engagement with social media, and like I said before, coming from the life that I came from, and with the direction that I am pushing myself towards, and the direction that I feel, that I'm being called towards, it makes it almost a necessity for me to learn how to incorporate these things into my life, because I know that they're important to other people. And I am a person that's concerned about people. I'm very concerned about people. And one of the reasons why I'm so concerned about people is because, I would not be here if people weren't concerned for me. So what does that mean? It means that I have to be concerned for others as well. You know, that is a thing that is always present in my mind. How much others have been there for me, and how much I need to be there for others. And a lot of those folks that were here for me, yeah, of course they're still here. Shout out to everybody who still helps me out, who still feels the the need or the urge, or or just the generosity, or whatever whatever it is that makes people reach out to me, and just to check on me, because I need it. And there are a lot of you out there, that I definitely appreciate and listen to, and welcome. And if you want to join that club, feel free. Reach out to me. Check on me, see how I'm doing, because that's what I do a lot. I try to reach out to others and try to figure out what's going on in their lives, man, so I can help out. Really, that has always been my greatest motivation and ambition, is to be a helper. I took one of those Briggs Myers tests one time, and it said that I'm an advocate. The character traits that that the test said that I possess, and again, I'm answering this thing 100% as honest as I can, and it said that I was an advocate, and it made me feel good. It made me feel good. It made me recognize some things, and I couldn't help but to agree with it. So I am always trying to figure out ways to reach out to people. Sometimes I'm better at reaching out, at times than others, and certain platforms I utilize, more effective than others. But for the past 10 years, social media has been a bane of my existence. I've found ways where it has been okay for me to use, and in other ways, it has been totally inappropriate for me to use. But, here I am today, and I am recording this on December 31st, 2023. So it is the last day of the year, and I would say probably about the early parts of December. You know, um, you can ask my fiance. I started kind of kind of, messing around a little bit with some different ideas, and she told me that, that I should go ahead and do it, go for it. So, here I am. And the first thing that I want to mention is what a year I have had. You see, in 2013, I know some of you still remember, some of you may have forgot, and I'm not necessarily trying to bring up old things of my past that I have really moved on from. Or I guess I wouldn't say necessarily moved on, but I've, kind of matured and found new approaches of. But in March of 2013, which is a 10-year mark, I was involved in what I would say was a protest about the conditions of employment on the east side of Kansas City here in my community. And guess what? Guess what, Kansas City? Especially if you're from Kansas City, you listen to this. Guess what? It's pretty much, well, I can't say. I was gonna say the same, but it ain't the same. It's actually worse. It's a lot worse, you know. And now, of course, I've learned to to deal with the situation for my community a lot better. But I won't say that it doesn't pain me just as much. As a matter of fact, it's one of the reasons why this year didn't start out as good as I would have liked it to, because I found myself at the beginning of this year still engaged in the same struggle. Same struggle. And I guess I was kind of immature. Yeah, well, look, yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and say that I was very immature 10 years ago. Yep, I was, yeah, approximately 32 years old, or somewhere around there. I ended up being 32, before the year closed because my birthday's in November. But to be honest, I I thought that even without my, humble little contributions that I could make, I kind of took it for granted that things would improve, that things would get better. That yes, I wanted to play a part in a lot of the guys that I used to hang out with, well, not hang out with, well, yeah, hung out with, worked with, tried to build with. We all kind of thought the same thing. Well, let me just not speak for other people. We didn't necessarily believe back then that the situation of our city was going to be worse 10 years from then, or 10 years from that moment. But it's crazy because, yes, that's actually the situation, I believe. And if you want to point me to some data or point me to some information that's different, um, yeah, I'll be willing to listen to it. I'll be willing to look at it, because that's one of the things about myself is that I'm a very open-minded, or I try to be very open-minded, especially when it comes to things that I don't believe that I'm an expert in, or that I don't feel I have enough knowledge and information to be exposed to. Um, so yeah, if you believe in your heart of hearts, or if you can show me some data, and let me move past the belief part, because like I said, I believe, but beliefs are one thing, data is another, you know. Um, so if you want to send me some data, if you want to reach out to me and show me or demonstrate to me how the quality of life, and let me throw that in there, because that's a a a um a metric that should revolve around your data, or your data should revolve around that, because sometimes there are situations where you can produce data, but yet and still the numbers don't tell the story, and the numbers can't tell the story, because if you know a little bit about economics like I do, then you are aware that information and numbers at times can be massaged and tabulated and arranged in a way that not only does it not tell you the story, but it actually leaves a very deceptive and and ineffective presentation, to say the least. So it can be dangerous when you want to just focus on numbers and these numbers are attached to people. One of the things that I've always had a problem with in economics, because some of the people would like to formulate these economic theories, and when you look at it, those economic theories have little to no relationship to reality whatsoever. So, like I said, 10 years ago, I literally thought that I would be speaking, or yeah, not necessarily speaking, but I would be observing a situation that is actually improved, and that is not necessarily the case. So, what happened for me at the early part of the year? Well, I had a mental breakdown. Yeah, let me just go ahead and throw it on out there. I had a mental breakdown. It was it the first mental breakdown that I have had in my life? No, it's not. And what's so interesting is that some people, in my family or whatever, they would say, "Oh, you've always had things that have not always been right with you." And, you know, I would say, yes, I have always had things that have not always been right with me. But guess what? I'm not new. There's nothing abnormal about me when it comes to that, because I wasn't the only child in that environment, and there are things that happen to other folks who are my age now that probably have had similar things, if not even worse things, happen to them. So, yes, there is a mental health crisis in Kansas City, because, yes, there is a societal breakdown that is taking place in Kansas City. I'm saying it. I really can't. I really can't express it any more clear than that. And one, you won't get that from the media environment in Kansas City. So what I'm saying is that you can't pick up the newspaper and see that the quality of life for the average person in Kansas City has actually declined, especially on the east side of Kansas City. Okay, yes, 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 yes. We know there are different sections of Kansas City. You got the north side, you got the east side. Yeah, yeah, it's like that everywhere. But I would also, kind of reiterate the point that, it's still a city, and you can't necessarily ignore one part of the city and actually, promote another part of the city and think that, yeah, that's fine because on average, we've improved. No, no, that's not how you do it. Especially if you're from the understanding that, no child should be left behind. Let me use that, as a statement. It's kind of a cliche or whatever. Yeah, no child should be left behind. Nobody should be left behind, and we should do our best to and try to improve the conditions of everyone, period. But when it comes to Kansas City, Missouri, that's not always the case. And so a lot of the times, or I know right now, there's a lot of focus on the politics. There's a lot focused on the politics, and it's sad because it didn't necessarily have to be this way, but ultimately, when you don't pay attention or you disinvest in the things that your community or your city actually needs, then guess what? Typically, those things become a what they call what political ping pong or something like that. You know what I mean? You're just basically um, encapsulating the condition into politics, and depending on somebody's political persuasion, we just keep on batting that thing back and forth and completely ignoring the situation in the condition that's at hand, and what actually needs to take place for that circumstance to be resolved. Well, I'm sorry, man, but even 10 years ago, like I said, it was 2013. I just had a protest against the mayor at the time, Sly James. And as a matter of fact, shout out to Sly James. I'm going to say it. Shout out to Sly James. Hats off to you, brother. You did what you needed to do, and you have moved on to the greener and better pastures. So, hats off to you. Um, you know, I can't say that I agree with everything that you were able to do for Kansas City, but some things that you do deserve credit for. So it's all good. But guess what? I never thought it could get worse than Sly James, but it did. It did. It absolutely did. To the point where I'm like, oh my God, man. If I was to, reverse time a little bit and actually, try to correct some things because of experience, and me and Marty McFly or whatever can jump back into the DeLorean and I could go back to 2013, I would say, wait, this man might not be the best mayor that we have ever had, but good Lord, don't elect this mayor. Or don't elect this guy coming up who wants to be mayor. Oh my God. And what's so interesting about this whole situation is that I've had several occasions to be in the same room with Mr. Lucas. And I really was impressed with the guy's level of intelligence. And I was even able to admire the way that he has come up and came back to his city, looking to serve. And just like any good old politician, what happened on the run up to Mr. Lucas being elected? Well, he was here, he was there, he was everywhere. He was shaking hands and kissing babies and, running around with his suit on every single occasion. And of course, he has a great smile and he has this tone and inflection in his voice. He's a poster child. You know what I mean? Like when you think about, okay, well, he might not necessarily be Obama, you know, but he doesn't have to be Obama. He's good with being Quentin Lucas, and he's such a nice guy. I swear, that's one of the things that you will consistently hear about Mr. Lucas. He is such a nice guy. And I'm not going to disagree with you. I don't know him like that. So, who knows? Yeah, he might be a nice guy. But, B-U-T. But, is he able to deliver on the things that Kansas City needs, especially from my community, to help us move beyond the decade after decade after decade disinvestment, malinvestment that ultimately leads to more deterioration and more blight on the east side of Kansas City? Can he resolve this conundrum? And not only did we have one um, term of increasing and escalating homicides. Guess what, Kansas City? Drum roll, please. Brrrr. Somebody decided to give him 2 terms. So he got reelected. And outside of Clay Chastain, nobody ran against him. I mean, and shout out to Clay Chastain, man. I got an opportunity to actually to engage with Mr. Chastain, and and at one point I was even thinking about working for him, but unfortunately the level of professionalism that I have now reached in politics here in Kansas City, I'm no longer um what would you say, accepting below market rates. Okay, it's not gonna happen, and I can volunteer all day, and I like to volunteer. And me being a volunteer for people who I believe in, it's probably the best thing that you could have, outside of actually paying me, because I'm pretty effective at this point at what I'm able to do and the things that I understand that need to be done, and being able to execute on those things as well. Yes, I would say I'm pretty good. And so, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I have reached a level of what I consider to be professionalism in politics. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Yep. Go ahead if you want to slander me, talk crazy about me, and say that the dude's off his rocker, he's out of his mind, yada, 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 yada. Hey, I'm gonna let you have that. But for the folks that know me and the folks that will come to know more of me, then possibly you become my ally. You become someone that is interested in making sure that I'm maintaining the balance that I need to have in this crazy world, because you might empathize a little bit. You might say, "Man, good God. I've known that guy for a little bit now, and I know that the only thing that he probably really struggles with to a very large degree is his own balance and his own need to pull back a little bit and take care of yourself a little bit, and not be so caught up into the different ways that you're watching or observing your community just fall apart, because you can't do nothing about it. I'm not a savior, I'm not the messiah or any of those things, but yes, man, I have a huge heart and I care a lot, and I've come to find out a lot. And sometimes, man, it hurts, man. It really hurts. And it's like, that's the only thing that I really want others to recognize and understand about, my city, what's going on with my city, and how can we improve the city. Man, just show me somebody who actually cares, that's willing to run and get elected. And again, like I said, 10 years ago, I saw it coming. I didn't know, of course, 10 years ago, that it would actually be like this. But if I sat back and if you would have asked me at that time, you know, Derron, make your projection for 2023. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have had as many tools as I have now to make as an accurate prediction, you know, that I'm able to make now, for things, because, of course, like I said, I got a degree in economics, and one of the things that you do in economics is you forecast. Yeah, you create forecasts, and even in political science, I got a degree in political science as well. You create models, and you can test the models, which is one of the things that people in academics and people who are associated with institutions of, production, development, and all those things, they try to have a plan for what's to come. And based off the plan and based off the models, we're still reliving the same dysfunction over and over and over and over again almost, which, what does that do? Well, if you know like I know, it drives you crazy. Yes, it does. And so when I'm watching the television and I'm seeing, the references to the mental health crises and all these things, and it just makes me really start to wonder, like, all right, we know that this is happening. We know what the condition and the circumstance is, but how do we change it? And I'm sorry, but there's no way that you change it by continuing to do the same things that you have done before in Kansas City. What have we done before? Well, one, we have walked away. We do that quite often. We just walk away from it. Just throw our hands up. And I understand, because I have to walk away from certain things too. And again, like I said, that's one of the sad parts and the crazy parts of Kansas City, because the conditioning is as such, you feel that there's no hope. And so that's why I'm here doing this thing right now, recording this podcast, because I want to say, one, never lose hope, ever. And two is that I was able to deal with my mental health through my spiritual health. That's right. If you have a mental health crisis, then guess what you also have? You got a spiritual crisis. Yes. What do we say? Mind, body, spirit. And we know that the brain is not the mind, and the mind's not actually in the body. So we have a situation of spiritual neglect that runs right along parallel to the political neglect. I want you to think back, right? 20 years ago, if you can, you might not be that old. And like I said, I'm privileged now because I'm 42. I can take time and reflect on 20 years prior. And I wish 20 years ago I could have projected or, envisioned 20 years into the future, but I didn't have the capacity then, But now I have the benefit of being 42 years old, and not just being 42 years old, but 42 years old and with a little remnants of intelligence. I can reflect on the previous 20 years, and I can even attempt to envision the next 20, and even attempt to even try to model what I believe the next 20 will be like. Because I got a little bit more of a tool set than what I had 20 years prior. Which again, like I said, it's a blessing and a privilege. And so I say that because if I look back just 10 years, just 10, and I try to envision what the next 10 will look like, OMG, G. Like I said, we have to remain optimistic because, um, anything else just allows for inertia to settle in. And, there's some natural laws, right, within physics that say, an object in motion will stay in motion, unless it's acted upon by outside source. So what's the trajectory that we're going in right now, Kansas City, Missouri, and United States of America? What's the trajectory? What's what's the what's the outcome that we can expect to have if we don't attempt to establish some type of intervention into some of these social, political, and economic conditions that we observe on a daily basis? And of course, I'm talking to my folks here in Kansas City. And, like I said, across Missouri and the United States also, because, like I said, I'm a United States Navy veteran. I wasn't the best sailor at the time that I was in the Navy, but good God Almighty. Again, when you have the privileges that I have had, and I mean the privilege of being poor, the privilege of being without, the privilege to be given an opportunity to actually survive and thrive in conditions that no one thought that you would even make it out of. I have been given that privilege, and it's been an incredible privilege because while others have climbed to the mountain, I have went down into the ditch. And yeah, it probably didn't take as much effort for me to get down into the ditch as it took for them to get up the mountain. But guess what? People fall off mountains all the time. But you're going to have to work your way out of that ditch. And that's what I've been I've been blessed to have the privilege to do in my life. So I'm gonna leave it here for the moment because this was only supposed to be a little opener. Like I said, I can ramble on for a while, man. I can ramble on, and I didn't even ramble too much. If you look at the little notes and the structure that I had, I got to a couple things that I wanted to speak on, but I didn't speak on everything because I'm looking at my little timer here, and it's already running into 38 minutes. So get ready, Kansas City and world, and whoever might come across this. This is Derron Black, man. I am Derron Black. I have a huge heart, and I am incredibly passionate about humanity and us all moving forward. And I have had some incredible experiences, and the greatest experience that I really can say that I've had as of late is the blessing of having one of the most profound experiences you can really think about, and it's all attached to, you know, um, me actually being broken at one point in a jail in Vernon County, Missouri. Again, Vernon County, Missouri. Some city charges or whatever, municipal violations. Not trying to downplay anything, but yeah, I was in Vernon County, Missouri. But that goes back to, well, how is it that you can get arrested by the Kansas City Police Department and end up in Vernon County, Missouri? That's another thing about the city that we live in. But anyway, I really, really want to thank everybody. It is December 31st, so we're about to celebrate a brand new year. So please, man, be on the lookout for more Black reports. I am going to do my best to drop them at least once a week for you. And so please, man, like, subscribe, leave a comment if you want to. And if you want to reach out to me, please feel free to shoot me an email at black.arcad, ARKAD, at outlook.com, as black.arcad, ARKAD, at outlook.com. And, let me know if you got any tips, suggestions, or if you just want to reach out and say hello, please do that. But until next time, everybody, peace, blessings, and much love.